Hello everybody, my name is Brian Rawlison. I'm a Principal Product Engineer on the ArcGIS Hub team here at Esri. Today we're going to talk a little bit about mobile layout design, centering around some best practices and tips and tricks you may or may not be aware of for both your ArcGIS Hub sites and enterprise sites layout designs. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today, just a brief intro of what ArcGIS Hub is, then talk about, really why it matters to think about mobile design when you're considering your layouts and trying to meet all those requirements of standing up your digital presence. Finally, we're going to spend a significant amount of the demo today actually in the product itself. We'll be walking through examples. I'll be providing you multiple opportunities to scan QR codes, to jump in, explore things yourself on your own time. If you're an enterprise customer here today, you may be thinking this isn't for you. But if you weren't aware, there is a version of Hub that runs on all enterprise deployments for quite a few years now called Enterprise Sites. All the functionality that we're going to walk through today is available on enterprise sites with some exceptions. However, if you're running anything close to Enterprise 10.8, you're in a really good spot and you can feel comfortable just jumping in and following along as well without any sort of hiccups. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. For those that aren't aware of what ArcGIS Hub is or enterprise sites, it's one of the core methods your peers have been using to establish their online presence and share both content and data out to their audience. Now, keep in mind, your audience may be public, as you see on the right here with the Federal Agency of the Census, sharing out demographic and economic resources related to COVID-19, or it could be entirely private. We've seen Fortune 500 companies leverage Hub as almost an intranet of sorts of resources for their employees. One of the biggest features of Hub is creating and designing the layout of your sites and pages, and that's what we're really here to talk about today. But I understand that a lot of you may not be too familiar with creating your own layout and design for your sites and pages, and that's totally fine. We actually have a really great feature in the product called templates, and there is a presentation at Dev Summit all about templates run by my colleague Jay Dev. Feel free to attend that because looking and browsing through those templates are a great resource of design inspiration, and if you really think a template is really great, you can just quickly adopt that template as your own and start your customization from a great starting point of someone else's inspiration. If you are interested in learning more about Hub, you can go ahead and scan the QR code on the left with your phone. Just open the camera application, hover it over the screen. You'll see a prompt to click into that URL. If you'd like more examples of your peers out there across industries and sectors, do the same thing with the QR code on the right. So now I want to transition to why you should be thinking about mobile in the first place. In 2020, the majority of sessions was just people visiting Hub sites, particularly on public sites, is where this data was being sourced, is on a mobile device. Actually, it's 3.7% more than desktop. And then when you include tablet in that, if you want to consider a tablet device somewhat of a smaller screen, you're thinking even more people viewing your content on smaller screens, particularly the phone. Now, if I take that same perspective and I look at all domains with the word COVID in it, that number increases dramatically. So 15.1% increase of mobile devices versus desktop. The reason why I'm doing this is not to say, hey, look at COVID sites. I think we all know what the deal is with COVID these days. What I'm saying is what your site's audience is matters. In this case, coronavirus information sites were targeted to a large swath of the public or people that were on the go, trying to find resources and information anywhere in their daily lives. And in this case, a large part of that source came from the phone. So if you are someone that is only standing up private sites meant for people at the workplace that are only using desktop, that's fine. We'd love to have you for the rest of the conversation. But if you have any instance that someone will be visiting your Hub site on a device of a smaller screen, let's stick around and we'll walk through some examples of how to make that a really enjoyable experience. All right, so as promised, we're going to spend most of our time today actually in the product itself. Go ahead, scan the QR code. It's going to take you to the demo site that we're going to be using. I'm also going to be publishing this site as its own public template. So at any time, you can go and jump into Hub, browse templates, and find this site and deploy it as your own template. And that way you can actually explore the layout editor while we're walking through this presentation if you see so fit. Otherwise, a lot of the keys and insights you'll see are actually listed on the layout itself. So it's not a requirement that you go ahead and deploy the template. You can obviously just browse the site or just watch the presentation, watch certain areas of the presentation over again for more information, or reach out to us. But let's go ahead and jump right in. If you did scan that QR code, you probably see something like this. Here I am in a desktop browser emulating an iPhone. But this is the site. This is going to be our demo site for today. And we're going to come back to this place a lot and view what it might look like on multiple different screen sizes. But for now, let's go ahead into the layout editor itself. If you aren't familiar with this place, all you do is create a site or go ahead and edit a site that may already exist that you have access to, and you'll be brought right here. Our initial focus is actually going to be at the top of the site, what we call the header. And you're going to see it listed up here with a large Esri logo, Dev Summit 2021 mobile demo, and then a bunch of these header links. We're not going to talk exactly about the full configuration of this header, but we're going to talk about why configuration matters and how it changes as you make your choices across different screen sizes. To edit your header, you can go ahead and see over here in the side panel. Let's go ahead and click that header selection, and this is where you can customize the appearance. Go wide, go box, define the branding, turn off branding, turn it on, change the alignment, and configure your header's menu links, plus a final, your social media. So I really want to focus particularly on the header menu links and the interplay between the logo itself and the name of your site. You might have seen there was two options in name. There is the actual name, so a long name, and then there's the short name of your site. Why this is important is because as the screen size gets smaller, we're going to run out of space to really properly display a particularly long name of your site on all the screens. So leveraging a short name is a way to ensure that as screen sizes get smaller, it's better represented and more human readable to any visitor of your site. A subtle tip here is actually the logo itself. You want to choose a logo that has good contrast with the background of your header and the background with your global navigation if you do have that on. You're going to set those themes in the theme section of your site. So go ahead, back out of header, go to theme, and here you can select your global navigation background color and your header background color. Why is this important? Well, as you can see, when the screen size gets smaller, if you do have a logo defined, we will go ahead and reflow it up into the global navigation bar for you, giving this nice symmetric layout. If you have defined that short name, like I did in our site, you'll actually see that listed as the menu name to open and view all of your menu header links. You can see on tablet-sized devices, those header links will actually reflow into a more drop-down where you can see more of the links themselves. And if this got even smaller, you can see the name actually switched automatically to using that short name due to the collision with the social icon of Twitter on the right. This interplay with how header menu links, names of your sites, and the logo of your sites is really important for a really high quality first impression. Our tools out of the box allow you to be able to easily configure all of this really within about 1.5 minutes at the most. Most of that time is probably finding the best logo that you want to use. This is our first lesson. We list out a few of them, really just 3 key ones here at the top of the layout. It's proper use of navigation. When someone arrives at your site, do they know what's available to them? And how do they know how they need to get around? It's your responsibility to provide those types of access points, and a careful consideration of how you design your header, particularly as it flows across multiple screen sizes, will maximize their success, which in turn maximizes yours. Our second core concept is not burying the lead. This is just essentially putting the most important content up front. Mobile sites can be very long, and users typically are only going to be on your site for about a minute to 2 minutes. So if you bury really core and key things 2,000 pixels down the page, I'm not too sure they're actually ever going to see it. So having at the top a call out section of saying, hey, love that you're here, this is what I would like you to do, is incredibly important. In this case, I'm just including the QR code that you scan to get here, and a primary CTA, a call to action, a button using the text card to go and explore our own Esri community talking about Hub. A final tenet is being as lightweight as possible. Consider how your site or page will load on a mobile device. When the onset of coronavirus happened, it was really important of sharing your data. However, that usually led to sites having upwards of 10 to 15 embedded dashboards. Every single one of those dashboards may be hundreds of megabytes in size. We actually had a few pages that would load over a gigabyte of data to fully render. Hub sites do use lazy loading by default to help circumvent some of that. But even still, the last thing you want to do is someone come into your site expecting to find key information, and the site being so heavyweight, it actually crashes their mobile browser. So understanding how you break up content across multiple pages, across multiple experiences, and what a mobile perspective of that content may be is critical to ensuring that people have a high quality experience in browsing and consuming your content. All right, so now we have our core tenets, and let's start off with some few tips and tricks thinking about rows, entire sections of the layout, and what we can do to better provide both desktop and mobile experiences. And we're going to start that off by just simply hiding some stuff. Every row has a input box down in this corner called row CSS class. And what you can do is input certain class names such as hidden-xs, hidden-sm, and it also includes medium, which is -md, and large, which is -lg. This is important because when you consider those maybe more heavyweight embedded applications that weren't built for the phone in mind, you can actually hide entire sections which will prevent them from loading in the first place, speeding up the performance of your mobile site drastically. So it's an incredibly useful tool to consider of lightweight ways to have mobile-oriented rows or desktop-oriented rows. So let's look at an example. So here I have a very desktop-y oriented row. This place is incredibly hostile. We have a heavyweight dashboard embedded right next to an embedded Twitter thread. If we did this on a phone, the user would be trapped everywhere. They wouldn't know where to do if it even loaded well in the first place. So by leveraging the following CSS classes on this row, I was able to hide the entire perspective for a mobile device. So I just inputted over here the three classes I'm looking to hide on, would it being a very small device, a larger phone, and a tablet essentially. And this row will not display at all. Further down, I actually leveraged a mobile version of the application in the first place using the iframe card. Certain cards have certain capabilities. Iframe cards are really impactful because they allow you the ability to provide a different embed URL pertaining to different device sizes. So I can either hide the card entirely on mobile, or in this case, I can have a desktop embed, which is what you're seeing here, and a mobile embed, which we'll see here in a second. So when we put all these configurations together, which really was just flipping some switch toggles and copying and pasting a few URLs, when I go to the mobile device and I had scrolled down, I'm actually seeing the mobile version of that dashboard built by the state of Maryland. I'm not seeing that heavyweight dashboard. I'm not seeing the Twitter embed because that entire row was hidden. And in this case, this is the iframe with the switched URL. So here I have a way of exploring data that is intuitive to me as a mobile user. So let's jump right back into the layout editor and go to our next section. And you somewhat saw a preview of it with the iframe card. And let's just talk about targeting specific cards to hide on mobile. And we saw it on the iframe card, but the example we're going to use here below is the application card. So I can go ahead and select the application I would like to embed, but in options, you'll see this ability to hide on mobile. And when this switch toggle is flipped, essentially consider this a row that's been hidden, but in this case, it's a card that has been hidden. Although the input of the CSS is relatively intuitive on rows, for cards, we made it drop dead simple. Just turn it on or just turn it off. And when we go back over to the mobile layout, if we scroll down, we'll actually see, wow, it's gone. We're actually not seeing that story map at all. So this is an impactful way that you can actually target specific elements in your layout to hide on a phone. You can have this be within the row itself. So you can have a shared row with multiple applications embedded and target specific ones to hide on a mobile device. Very powerful little tool, all powered by a small switch toggle. Now I'm going to talk to you about something that's relatively near and dear to my own personal interactions with mobile websites. So jumping back into the layout editor, I'm going to ask you, how can we consider breaking up content? And particularly preventing something that we call a forever scroll of doom. And what is that? That is essentially a large scrolling application that, on desktop, I can generally get around. In this case, we're going to pick on story maps, not because they're at all suffer about this. They're actually relatively mobile first, but just simply because it's really easy to stand up extremely long story maps. So let's illustrate the point. Going back to our phone, here we have the embed, right down here, starting with getting started with story maps. Think about where you put your thumb as you're using your mobile device. It's likely not up in the top area of the screen. I'm not up here with break it up, moving things around. I am more than likely down in this area. So as I'm scrolling, this is my experience. I'm not exactly sure how to get further down the screen. It seems like I'm locked in some sort of scrolling area, and actually I can't even really see everything that they want me to see because it's so small. So what would I end up likely doing? You're likely going to take your thumb and move it up to the top section of the screen and shoot it down. And here I am. I felt like I moved further, but in reality, I'm in a worse spot. Every scroll I do is within that embedded iframe, and I have no idea when this will end. You can actually see something available to us as a desktop user emulating a mobile device. I see a scroll bar here over to the right. Well, most people actually won't see that indication, but here's the confusing part. It's not moving. And then you see this really small one at the top that will appear every now and then. That's the actual scroll distance of this embedded application. So you can see, because this is such an extensive story map, I'm going to be here for a while. So let's just go ahead and fast scroll through things, which is probably what our mobile users will end up doing just because they're so frustrated. And now they're not even consuming the content at this moment. They're just trying to get through things. They keep on going, and they keep on going, and they keep on going, and they keep on going. And I don't know about you, but I've already left the site. But let's say they did make it. They made it all the way to the bottom. That was a long time. So what we could have done differently there is leveraging hidden classes to actually show things. So what does that mean? We've been talking about hiding things, but now I'm saying hide things to show things. So imagine I did want to have that story map embedded on a desktop device. So I put it in a row and I hid it. But what if I actually use that same principle to only show things on certain screen sizes? So I could have a row, perhaps a gallery card in it of this story map that is hidden on everything except for extra small devices, i.e. a phone. And that's exactly what I did here. So leveraging a gallery card, I provided an ability for a mobile device user to click into that story map, which leverages something called the app page. If you're unfamiliar with the app page, go into your layout editor, go into your site settings, interactions, and enable app page. What this will do is on certain supported applications, it will open up essentially as its own page on your site underneath your site's header. A great way to keep your site's branding around and the navigation of your site around as people explore your site's content. So what did that turn out for the mobile user? Well, let's say I did click on this. I would see an experience like this. I am now in a dedicated place where I'm able to freely scroll that story map. And it's a much more intuitive place because I have the availability to click back and go back to where I was previously and then continue along my journey. This type of ways of hiding things to show particular experiences on particular devices is an important consideration that allows you to have a single layout that you manage solely while supplying differentiated experiences tailored to meet the needs of the devices that are viewing your content. Putting all these tips and tricks together provides you with an easy, flexible, and intuitive way of defining a quality user experience across all device categories. Trust me when I say that as a product team, we want to do most of the work for you, but we do rely on you to tell us what the experience should be in particular cases. We really appreciate seeing your designs, and mobile browsers are fantastic and important places for you to showcase your branding, your layout, most importantly, the critical content that you're trying to showcase. Keep in mind, a big web page today is typically anything more than 3 megabytes. And as we talked about earlier, some of these embedded applications can be hundreds of megabytes. Mobile devices have gotten so much better in handling those larger devices, but as long as you add multiple to the page, they will start to struggle and perhaps even crash. So leveraging these nifty tips and tricks will allow you a smooth sailing journey, will provide us with the ability to serve you better, and allow Hub to operate for you instead of you always required to manage Hub. So before we go back into the slides, let's just quickly review some of the things we talked about today. We talked about showing content on particular devices by leveraging custom CSS properties on rows. Easy to do. Just copy and paste any of the snippets that you've seen on this site and target particular experiences that you'd like to show or hide. We talked about preventing the forever scroll of doom. Trust me when I say, as a mobile user, I appreciate you if you're thinking about this for us all. We went up further and talked about hiding particular embedded applications using a card's hide on mobile tooling. We talked about leveraging the iframe card to either use that same tooling or to provide alternative embed URLs to show on mobile devices versus one of which you want to show on desktop. We talked about the hidden row generally, having heavyweight desktop experiences versus more lightweight and combined experiences for mobile, layering all these tricks in to have the best experience. And finally, we talked about the 3 core principles to always keep in mind. Using proper navigation, the interplay between the logo, your branding, the header's menu links. We talked about not burying the lead, keeping things up front. Also consider bookending, so also keeping those things down below. And as always, being lightweight. Splitting up your layout across multiple sites and pages. Considering how to use the app page to embedding. All methods of ensuring a quality user experience, no matter the device category, desktop, tablet, mobile device, but critical for the mobile device. And that's where we're going to end today's demo. We went through a lot. We browsed essentially the entire site layout editor. Keep in mind, as always, everything we did today applies to pages as well. If at any time you want to come back and view this demo site, feel free to scan this QR code, bookmark that URL. It will not be changing. As a reminder, I will be publishing the site as a public-facing template, so you can find it in your Browse Templates gallery within Hub. You can activate that template and explore everything yourself. So just from all of us here at Esri, From all of us here on the ArcGIS Hub and Enterprise Sites product team, development team, design team, I just want to express a heartfelt thank you to all the work you've done throughout the year, including last year, which I think was difficult for a lot of us. The stuff that you guys have been doing has been critical to ensuring people are successful in getting the necessary information. And some of the tips we talked about today are a small part in moving that needle forward. So again, thank you for all your time. Feel free to reach out to us on GeoNet to talk more about mobile site design. We'd love to have a chat. I believe there should be a feedback session at the end of the video. Feel free to fill it out. We'd love to hear your feedback. Once again, thank you everyone. Have a great 2021. Have a great Dev Summit. Look forward to seeing you on the community. Take care.